I honestly never thought I'd be the guy posting in a relationship subreddit, but here we are. My wife and I have been together for 11 years, married for 7. We met when we were both broke, stressed, and working dead-end jobs, and somehow built a decent life together. House. Dog. Shared routines. The kind of stuff that makes you think you're solid. Or at least I thought we were. Looking back now, the signs were probably there way earlier than I wanted to admit. She became weirdly protective of her phone around 6 months ago. Like, aggressively protective. Taking it into the bathroom. Sleeping with it under her pillow. Tilting the screen away anytime I walked into the room. And every time I asked about it, she'd snap at me instantly. "You're paranoid. You always make things weird. Can I have one thing that's private?" That became her thing. Turning everything back on me. At first I believed her because honestly, I trusted her completely. She was blunt, loud, kind of harsh sometimes, but that was just her personality. She always said exactly what she thought, and I used to respect that about her. But then little lies started stacking up in ways that didn't make sense. She told me she was working late, but her office called one night asking if she was sick because she hadn't shown up in 2 days. She claimed she went out with her cousin, but her cousin posted Instagram stories from another city that same weekend. One night she came home smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. When I pointed it out, she laughed in my face and said I was becoming obsessive. I started questioning my own sanity at that point. Then came the first real punch to the gut. 3 weeks ago, at around 2 a.m., I woke up because I heard her downstairs talking on the phone. Quiet voice. Almost whispering. That alone was weird because she normally stomps around the house like she's angry at the floorboards. I walked halfway down the stairs and heard her say, "I miss you too." Not, "love you." Not anything dramatic. Somehow those 4 words hurt worse. I froze there like an idiot while my heart basically started beating in my throat. Then she laughed. Softly. A laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. And I knew something was seriously wrong. The next morning, I tried convincing myself I imagined the whole thing. That's how denial works, I guess. Your brain starts bargaining before the facts even arrive. She acted completely normal at breakfast. Scrolling TikTok, complaining about traffic, yelling at the dog for barking at nothing. Same person. Same routine. Meanwhile I was sitting there staring at her hands wondering whose skin they touched the night before. I almost confronted her right then. But I didn't. Instead, I made the mistake of watching more closely. And once you start noticing things, you can't stop. She suddenly cared about her appearance in ways she never used to. New lingerie. Expensive perfume. Shaving before girls' nights. She even started going to the gym after making fun of gym people for years. One afternoon she got a text while she was in the shower. Her phone lit up on the kitchen counter right beside me. No name. Just a heart emoji. That was it. A single stupid heart. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I was gonna throw up. I didn't even touch the phone at first. I just stared at it like it was a bomb. Then another text came in. Last night was worth the wait. I swear to God my vision blurred for a second. And this is the part where people online will probably judge me, but yeah, I unlocked her phone. I knew her passcode because she'd had the same one for years. Except this time it didn't work. She changed it. That hurt more than I expected. Not the cheating. Not yet. The passcode. Because changing that meant planning. It meant secrecy. It meant she knew exactly what she was hiding. When she came downstairs, I asked casually who kept texting her. Instant attitude. Why are you touching my phone? Are you seriously invading my privacy now? You're acting insane lately. No hesitation. No confusion. Just straight into attack mode. I told her I saw the messages. And I watched her face change for maybe half a second before she recovered. "That's Amanda's boyfriend," she said immediately. "He's planning a surprise for her." Such a ridiculously fast answer that it almost sounded rehearsed. I wanted to believe her so badly. But then she grabbed the phone and turned the screen away from me so fast it was almost violent. That tiny movement told me everything. People who have nothing to hide don't react like that. Then, because apparently my life wasn't chaotic enough already, someone started pounding on our front door. Like full-on police-level pounding. My wife went pale instantly. And that's when things got way worse. I opened the door expecting cops. Instead, it was a woman I'd never seen before standing on my porch holding a toddler on her hip. She looked exhausted. Eyes red. Mascara smeared. Like she'd either been crying for hours or hadn't slept in days. The second my wife saw her, she whispered, "Oh my God." Not confusion. Recognition. Immediate recognition. The woman looked right past me and pointed directly at my wife. "You," she said. "You need to stop texting my husband. I'm telling you right now." The silence after that felt unreal. Like the air physically disappeared from the room. My wife instantly switched personalities. "What the hell are you talking about?" she snapped. "I don't even know your husband." Lie. Immediate lie. No hesitation. The woman actually laughed at that, but it sounded broken. "Then why do I have screenshots of you telling him you love him?" My chest literally tightened. I looked at my wife waiting for literally anything. Panic. Guilt. Shock. Instead she rolled her eyes. Rolled. Her eyes. "This is psycho behavior," she said. "You tracked me down over some messages." The woman handed me her phone before my wife could stop her. And there it was. Months of messages. Pictures. Voice notes. Hotel confirmations. One message from my wife literally said, "I wish I met you before I got married." I felt like somebody hit me in the ribs with a baseball bat. And somehow, my wife still kept lying. "She's taking things out of context." He pursued me. It wasn't serious. We never even slept together. Meanwhile there were explicit hotel bookings right there. Then the woman dropped another bomb. Apparently her husband wasn't just some random guy. He worked with my wife. Which meant every late meeting, every conference, every team dinner suddenly became suspicious all at once. I asked my wife one simple question. "How long?" She crossed her arms and said, completely cold, "Why does it matter now?" That sentence genuinely changed something inside me. Because up until then, I think part of me still hoped this was fixable somehow. That there was some misunderstanding buried under all the lies. But hearing her say that, no remorse. No apology. Just annoyance that she got caught. The woman eventually left after apologizing to me, which honestly made me feel even worse somehow. And the second the door closed, my wife turned on me like I was the problem. "You embarrassed me," she said. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "We need to talk." You embarrassed me. I just stared at her because my brain couldn't even process the level of delusion happening in front of me. Then she said something I still hear in my head constantly. "If you had been a better husband, this wouldn't have happened." That sentence absolutely detonated me. Not outwardly at first. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. Didn't do the dramatic movie scene. I just stood there staring at her while something inside me collapsed. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal: the cheating hurts, obviously. But the rewriting of history? That's the part that really messes with your head. Suddenly every good memory feels fake. Every vacation picture. Every anniversary dinner. Every "I love you." Every time she cried in my arms. You start wondering if any of it was real or if you were just convenient. I asked her what exactly I had done to deserve this. And she immediately launched into a list. You stopped being ambitious. You got boring. You never listened. You're emotionally unavailable. Some of it wasn't even true. Some of it maybe was. Long marriages get messy. People drift. But none of it explained months of lies. Then she said something even crazier. She claimed the affair just happened. As if adults accidentally book hotel rooms and send "I miss your body" texts by coincidence. At one point I actually laughed because the excuses became so absurd that my brain short-circuited. That pissed her off instantly. You think this is funny? And for the first time in years, I snapped back. No, I said. I think you're a liar. Silence. She looked genuinely shocked that I said it out loud. Then came the waterworks. Like an actual switch flipped. Suddenly she was crying, saying she was confused, saying she felt lonely, saying she never meant to hurt me. 5 minutes earlier she'd basically blamed me for the entire affair. I remember thinking, which version is real? The cruel one? The crying one? The angry one? Or are they all fake? Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. And I heard a man say, "Hey. I think we should talk." It was him. The other husband had apparently told him everything already. My wife's face drained of color the second she realized who was on the phone. Then she started yelling. "Hang up. Don't talk to him. He's manipulative." Interesting how suddenly honesty became dangerous. I walked outside to take the call because I genuinely thought I might explode if I stayed in that house another minute. The guy sounded destroyed. Like completely hollowed out. And then he told me something I still wasn't prepared for. According to him, my wife wasn't the only woman he'd been cheating with. There were multiple affairs. And apparently my wife knew that. I honestly don't know why that detail hurt as much as it did. You'd think once you discover your spouse is cheating, the damage is already maxed out. But somehow learning she knowingly involved herself with a serial cheater made everything feel even uglier. Like it wasn't some emotional mistake. Not some lonely moment thing. It was chaos. Deliberate chaos. The guy, I'll call him Derek, sounded embarrassed talking to me. Kept apologizing every 2 sentences even though he was also part of this disaster. He told me he'd been seeing my wife for almost 8 months. 8 months. Meanwhile my wife had spent that same period talking about renovating our kitchen and asking if we should try for kids next year. I felt physically sick. Then Derek said, "There's something else you should know." At this point I almost laughed because apparently the universe had decided I hadn't suffered enough for one evening. He told me my wife had been telling him our marriage was basically over already. That we were emotionally separated. That I was controlling, cold, maybe even verbally abusive. I swear my hands started shaking. Not because I'm perfect, I'm not, but because it was such a complete distortion of reality that I barely recognized myself in her version of events. And suddenly so many weird moments from the past year clicked into place. Mutual friends acting distant. Her sister randomly asking if we were okay. People giving me these strange pity looks I couldn't understand. She'd been building a narrative about me behind my back for months. I went back inside after the call, and she immediately started interrogating me. What did he say? What lies did he tell you? You better not believe him over your own wife. Own wife. That phrase almost made me angry enough to see stars. I asked her directly if she'd been telling people I was abusive. And instead of denying it immediately like a normal person would, she hesitated. Just for a second. But that second told me everything. Then she got defensive. I never said abusive. I said you can be emotionally difficult. You make me feel trapped sometimes. Every sentence kept shifting slightly depending on what sounded best in the moment. It was like arguing with smoke. Then came another twist. Her phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and panicked. Actually panicked. I grabbed the phone before she could decline the call. It was her mother. Now, little context here, her mom and I always got along weirdly well. She used to joke that I was the stable one in the relationship. I answered. And before I could even say hello, her mother said, "Did she finally tell you about the money?" The money. What money? The look on my wife's face at that moment. Pure terror. I put the phone on speaker. My wife lunged for it immediately. "Give me that." That was the first time all night she looked truly afraid. Not sad. Not guilty. Afraid. Her mother went silent for a second after hearing my voice. Then she sighed like someone realizing a grenade already exploded and there's no point pretending otherwise. "Oh," she said quietly. "You don't know." I asked again. "What money?" My wife started talking over both of us. "Mom, stop. This is none of his business. You're making things worse." "None of my business. About our marriage. Our finances. Our life." Her mother ignored her completely. Apparently over the last year my wife had secretly drained almost all of her personal savings and taken out a loan I knew absolutely nothing about. Guess where a huge chunk of the money went? Trips. Hotels. Gifts. Fancy dinners. For him. I genuinely thought I was going to pass out. Meanwhile this woman had spent months criticizing me for buying a new gaming PC because it was financially irresponsible. I asked how much money we were talking about. Neither of them answered immediately, which was terrifying. Finally her mom muttered. "About 40,000. 40,000. I actually sat down on the kitchen floor because my legs stopped feeling real. My wife instantly switched into defense mode again. "It's not all gone. I was gonna pay it back. You act like I committed murder." At that point I realized something horrifying. She genuinely did not understand the scale of what she'd done. The cheating. The lies. The manipulation. The money. To her, the biggest issue seemed to be getting caught. Then another memory slammed into me out of nowhere. 3 months earlier, she'd cried at dinner because I said we should wait before replacing her car. Said I didn't support her goals. Said I never prioritized her happiness. Meanwhile she was secretly funding an affair. I started laughing again, and I know that sounds insane, but sometimes your brain just breaks under too much pressure. She got furious. "You're acting unstable." That word hit me hard because suddenly I realized she'd probably been using that exact narrative with other people too. Not just difficult. Not emotionally distant. Unstable. The worst part? I started questioning myself for a second. That's what manipulation does. Even with proof sitting in front of you, part of your brain still wonders if you are the problem. Then her mother said something that changed the entire direction of the night. Very quietly, she asked me, "Did she tell you about the pregnancy?" The room went dead silent. I looked at my wife. My wife looked at her mother. And in that exact moment, I knew two things instantly. There had been a pregnancy. And she never planned to tell me. I don't think I've ever felt a silence like that before. Not even after funerals. It was like every sound in the house disappeared at once. The fridge humming. Cars outside. The dog moving around upstairs. Gone. Just this horrible pressure in my ears while I stared at my wife waiting for her to say literally anything. She didn't. Her mom finally whispered. You told him you handled it. Handled it? What the hell does that even mean? I asked my wife directly if she was pregnant. And instead of answering like a normal human being, she snapped. It doesn't matter anymore. That sentence hit me harder than the affair somehow. Because I had wanted kids for years. We both talked about it constantly. Names. Schools. Whether we'd move closer to her parents someday. We had entire imaginary futures built around that idea. And now suddenly there had been a pregnancy I knew nothing about. I asked how far along she was. Again, hesitation. Then. Almost 10 weeks. 10 weeks. Which meant while we were sitting on the couch watching movies together. While we were arguing over paint colors for the guest room. While she was kissing me goodbye in the mornings. She already knew. I asked the question I was terrified to ask. Is it mine? Her face changed instantly. There it was. The panic. The guilt. The calculation. And that hesitation answered me before she even opened her mouth. I don't know, she said quietly. I swear that broke something fundamental inside me. People online love dramatic revenge stories where someone flips tables and screams and throws rings across rooms. Real life isn't always like that. Sometimes you just feel empty. Like your entire body shuts down to survive the shock. Her mother started crying on the phone, apologizing to me over and over. Apparently she'd assumed I already knew everything because my wife told her we were working through it together. Another lie. Another layer. I asked my wife if the pregnancy was still ongoing. And she looked away. That was when her mom answered instead. She terminated it last month. I closed my eyes because I honestly thought I might throw up. Not because of the termination itself, that's her choice, obviously. It was the secrecy. The fact that my entire life had apparently become a side story in my own marriage while everyone else got fragments of truth except me. Then my wife suddenly exploded. Can everybody stop acting like I'm some monster? That was the moment I realized she saw herself as the victim here. Not fully maybe. But enough. She started ranting about pressure and expectations and feeling trapped in adulthood. About how she'd lost herself being somebody's wife for years. And maybe some of those feelings were real. But instead of talking to me, she chose lies. Again and again and again. Then she said something that still messes with my head. I didn't think you'd actually find out. Not, I didn't mean to hurt you. Not, I'm sorry. She genuinely thought she could manage all of this forever. And honestly, that scared me more than the cheating itself. At some point around 4 a.m., I realized we'd been arguing for almost 6 straight hours. The house looked wrecked. Her phone was face down on the counter. There was cold coffee spilled everywhere. The dog refused to come downstairs because we'd been yelling so much. And somehow the night still wasn't over. I told her I needed space to think. Simple sentence. Calm tone. You would have thought I announced I was abandoning her in the wilderness. She instantly switched from defensive to desperate. No, you're not leaving. We need to fix this. You can't just walk away. Interesting how suddenly the marriage mattered. I grabbed a duffel bag and started throwing random clothes into it because honestly my brain was too fried to think logically. That's when she blocked the bedroom door. Actually blocked it. Arms crossed. Crying again. And before anybody says it, no, I never touched her. Never even came close. But the emotional whiplash was insane because 5 minutes earlier she'd been blaming me for everything. Now suddenly I was her best friend and the love of her life. I remember saying, "You don't destroy people you love." That shut her up for exactly 3 seconds. Then came another confession out of nowhere. Apparently Derek's wife wasn't the only person who knew about the affair. Several of my wife's friends knew too, including one couple we regularly had dinner with. I actually felt heat rush into my face hearing that. Because now I wasn't just betrayed. I was humiliated. People had apparently sat across from me at restaurants knowing my wife was sleeping with another man while I talked about work stress and weekend plans like an idiot. I asked who knew. She refused to answer at first. Then she admitted her best friend covered for her multiple times. Girls' trips. Fake. Work events. Fake. One weekend conference. Apparently she spent it at a cabin with him. I physically couldn't process how many lies were packed into 1 year. Then she said the sentence that officially killed any remaining part of the marriage inside me. I never meant for it to go this far. That sounds bad, right? But what she meant was worse. Because apparently she originally planned for this to be just physical. Like that somehow made it less horrifying. Then came the absolute peak insanity of the night. Somebody started banging on the front door again. Not knocking. Banging. My wife froze instantly. I looked through the window and saw Derek standing outside. Drunk. Very drunk. And based on the expression on his face, things were about to get catastrophic. I opened the door before my wife could stop me. Derek stumbled inside smelling like whiskey, cigarettes, and bad decisions. The guy looked completely destroyed. Hair a mess. Eyes bloodshot. Hoodie half-zipped like he threw it on while spiraling. The second he saw my wife, he pointed at her and yelled. "You told him everything?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm sorry." That was his first concern. My wife immediately started screaming back. "Why are you here? You're drunk. Get out." Meanwhile I'm just standing there in the middle of this nightmare wondering how my life turned into a reality show in under 24 hours. Then Derek looked at me and said, "She lied to both of us." Apparently we weren't done uncovering secrets. At this point I honestly considered walking directly into traffic. Derek started ranting, talking way too fast, words slurring together, saying my wife had told him she was filing for divorce soon. That she couldn't stand living with me anymore. That we only stayed together for financial reasons. Complete fiction. Then he dropped another bomb. According to him, my wife had also been seeing someone else briefly a few months earlier. A third guy. I looked at her so fast I almost got dizzy. And instead of denying it immediately, she screamed. "Why are you doing this?" Wrong answer. Very wrong answer. Derek laughed this bitter, ugly laugh and pulled out his phone. More screenshots. Different guy. Different messages. Different dates. My wife tried grabbing the phone out of his hand and they literally started shoving each other in my living room like angry teenagers. That's when Derek shouted something that made the entire room stop moving. "You told me the baby might have been mine." I swear my heart actually skipped. Everything went silent again. My wife looked horrified. Real horrified this time. Not caught in a lie horrified. Life is falling apart horrified. I asked him what he meant. And apparently during one of their fights, she confessed there was a chance the pregnancy wasn't mine or his. Meaning there was potentially a third possibility. I felt numb. Not angry anymore. Not even sad. Just, gone. Like my emotions hit maximum capacity and shut down completely. My wife started crying harder than before, saying everybody was twisting things, saying she was overwhelmed and scared and didn't know what was real anymore. But honestly, nothing coming out of her mouth meant anything at that point. Then Derek suddenly punched the wall beside the kitchen doorway. Hard. Drywall cracked instantly. That snapped me back into reality. I told him to get out. Immediately. To his credit, he actually listened.